healthy boundaries. Christian counselor Ann Beal from the Minirth Clinic is going to guide us through this journey. And I'm Jim Cress, inviting you to stick around for today's edition of the Minirth Clinic. With you on today's Minirth Clinic television broadcast as a matter of caring. Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Cress with Christian counselor Ann Beal from the Minirth Clinic. And today, again, talking about boundaries, how to have healthy boundaries. And one of the things that I like to do in any radio or TV program I'm part of is saying, let's get right down and get practical. When we get practical and give maybe some steps or some considerations or 10 points to this or that, it doesn't mean that that's the answer, meaning you do the 10 things and all the problems go away. Far be it from that. But it is a bit of a grid for you, some guidelines, and then you do kind of the hard work, the messiness of the drawing and keeping those healthy boundaries. And that's what we're going to focus in on today. Thanks so much for stopping by. Ann Beal, good to have you back here today. And
thank you.
We established in day one that this is an area, this is a topic that all of us can relate to. And you've given some personal illustrations. I've given a few. And who knows, we may have more of those today.
Yeah, probably. We're talking about tips for good boundaries. I can tell you how many ways I've done them wrong and how I put it together that these are the good things. But yeah.
That's part of it. You know, I think one of the things we'll say a lot of times on this program is be gentle with yourself. And a lot of times that doesn't happen. A person will be harsh and they will take what you've just said and say, well, I can tell you how I screwed up, man. I've really messed things up bad. And here are 20 ways I've done it. Instead of saying, you know, almost with a light laughter, that says, you know, I've messed up in some areas, and this is how I've messed up, and here's what I've learned from that. And it's the idea of being gentle with ourselves. And I know that that comes from your heart as well as we kind of move into some of these specific tips today.
Right, and the main thing that will really help us in all of this is to understand the difference between false guilt and true guilt.
Yes.
That really helped me to know that, you know, false guilt is believing you did something wrong that's not against God's law at all. And so that's false guilt. And true guilt is knowing where you really have done something wrong. And that's by knowing boundaries, we know when we've really done something wrong and when we haven't. What's okay and what's not okay.
Okay. Got a quick question before we take this break. Did you by any chance used to be Dorothy Hamill?
Yes, I was.
I was just noticing, look at the monitor. You do. It looks a little bit like her.
I do like her haircut, though. It's a lot like this one.
Okay. She patterned hers after yours then, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Whatever.
She was my dream.
She was your dream. Dorothy Hamill. Did you ever skate?
I did ice skate, yeah.
Well, that's a whole other show. We'll have to find out about that part of your life. We'll take a break. When we come back, more with Ann Beal, not Dorothy Hamill. We will come back and talk with her about the area of drawing healthy boundaries, what it looks like, getting very practical. You may want to take some notes along the way, or forget the notes, just purchase one of our one-page digests on the topic of boundaries. You can do that by calling toll-free 1-888-MINIRTH, 1-888-646-4784. We'll be right back. The Minirth Clinic in Richardson, Texas, here for you as a matter of caring. The Minirth Clinic has a commitment to excellence in many areas, maintaining a professional Christian staff, compassionate, individualized patient care, and comprehensive quality treatment programs and services. Through our medical and counseling practice and outreach programs, the staff maintains a conviction that the most effective way of helping an individual with emotional problems is by treating the person as a whole. The Minirth Clinic is led by Christian psychiatrist and best-selling author Dr. Frank Minirth, a diplomate of the American Board of Psychiatry and Neurology and the American Board of Forensic Medicine.
Dear friend, here at the clinic, we try to have a Christ-like caring approach with the behavioral tools. Sometimes medicines can also really help and make a world of difference for depression, weight loss, panic, anxiety, sexual dysfunctions, ADHD, insomnia, dementia. Are you aware that there are new and many times very helpful medicines in these areas that bother so many people in the Christian world today? Again, new medicines in depression, weight loss, panic, anxiety, sexual dysfunction, ADHD, insomnia, dementia. They're not for everyone, but sometimes they can make a world of difference for the cause of Christ.
Call the Minirth Clinic today with the struggle that you're having or the struggle in the life of a friend or a family member. The Minirth Clinic is committed to providing the optimum level of patient care at an affordable cost. Many major insurance carriers will cover the patient counseling services. Call the Minirth Clinic today. Ask for information on individual counseling, group counseling, medical management, marriage and family counseling, or information on our child and adolescent services. You need to make the call today. The Minirth Clinic, toll free, 1-888-MINIRTH. 1-888-646-4784. The help you're looking for is a phone call away. The Minirth Clinic, 1-888-646-4784. Back with you on Minirth Clinic Television. You saw the graphic there. Dealing with a one-page digest on a variety of topics, everything from anxiety to depression to the chemistry of our emotions, ADHD, one's dealing with PMS, sexual purity. I've said so many times in this program, if you're watching a wife of a man you have yet to call, to order a copy of this because it's based on the Promise Keeper acrostic. So it won't be, why are you giving me this digest on sexual purity? To say, hey, it's one based on the Promise Keeper acrostic. And that's one of the 7 promises. I think there's 7 of the Promise Keeper. Been a mini Promise Keepers gathering, but that's one of them, the ones that deals with sexual purity. If you'd like to order, purchase a copy of any of those one-page digests, the number's there on your screen, toll-free, 1-888-MINIRTH. That's 1-888-646-4784. Christian counselor Ann Beal with us here from the Minirth Clinic, and I'm Jim Cress. We are talking about healthy boundaries, and today getting very specific on some of the how-tos. Ann, let's kind of dive right in, see if we can get a strategy for us today on how to have these healthy boundaries.
Okay. To start, I believe that you need to have a strong self-image in God's Word, just to know that God loves you the way you are right now, and no matter what you do more or what you do less, He won't love you any less or any more than He does right now.
There are some people who don't believe it. They're thinking they can do something that will make God love them more, and quite frankly, there's something they can do that will make God love them less, and you're saying not so.
And they believe the same thing about people, too. And so they make that the same. God's very different from people.
Yes.
So to have a strong self-image is to say, God loves me and I'm very lovable and I'm very special just the way I am, even if you respond to me badly. So that helps me not get so thrown off and not take it so personally.
Yes.
When you're upset or you ignore me and don't handle me well, because I know that I'm still worthy. And that has really helped me more than anything in my life, to know that I'm special and I'm unique and God's made me for a specific purpose.
I think one of the important things that Ann is pointing out to us there is the reality that we need not and should not try to have other people meeting certain needs. And it's more than just trying. In some cases, it's an out-and-out demand. It's a cry that says, you must meet this in my life, things that really are designed to be met only by God. It is, if you like to work puzzles like my family does, if there is a piece that is missing and you try to take a puzzle piece that doesn't go there and cram it and twist it, you might be able to force, that doesn't work, doesn't it? Certainly doesn't in the end. And for some of you today in the area of boundaries, having healthy boundaries or not, you try to get needs met by other people. Sometimes it works, it does, but it won't always last and won't always be there. Needs met by other people that were designed to be met by God. That's an important issue we got to face.
Right. That's one of the most important. Because with that, then I can say, I'm in control of what I do, and I'm not in control of what you do. And God's made us different for that reason. And so what I need to do is find out what my issues are, where my boundaries are weak, where I need to draw lines, and where my weaknesses are, and what I need to work on. And that way, when you respond badly, I won't immediately blame myself and think, well, that's because of me. I must be a bad wife, or I must not be a good friend, or a lot of people blame themselves. But if they had a strong self-image and know this is me and they know at that moment there's nothing I did. And that's when I just say, I must have offended you. Did I do something? Because I used to be a self-blame person. And it's so nice to hear them say, no, I'm just having a bad day, which was really hard for me before to accept. Oh, they're not really having a bad day. It must really be me. But just knowing that people have struggles and people have their own stuff. And if they respond badly, that's their stuff, not yours. And they're responsible for their behavior, not you.
We're going to remind our listeners again, our viewers, that if you'd like to order one of the one-page digests, to purchase one of them that deals with this topic of boundaries, and I tell you, so much more than we'll ever have time to get to on the air, you can find all the information at 1-888-MINIRTH. That's 646-4784. Toll free anywhere you're watching this program, 1-888-646-4784. I hope you'll call that number today to ask about not only the topic of boundaries, but other topics that we have available in the way of the one-page digest. Again, toll free 1-888-646-4784. Let's talk about the areas we are trying to develop these healthy boundaries in the way of getting practical. We talked about not trying to have certain needs met that were only designed to be met by God. How does one move into that area? How does one say, okay, this is something that was designed to be met by God, and I think this one could be, or maybe some cases should be met by my spouse or by someone I'm in a relationship. How do you know the difference?
Well, you find out pretty quickly, I think. When I try to have my needs met by my husband and he doesn't, and maybe he should at that time, all I can really do is let him know what he's done. You know, if he comes home, which so often we're distant when we come home, we need some time, and if I don't give it to him and he's real distant, I just let him know that really hurt me. So it's my responsibility, even when they don't behave well, to tell them how it affects me. And that's why we say I feel messages are really good with everyone. I feel good, or boy, I love being with you. This is a really hard time for you, isn't it? It's hard for me to wait until you have time to talk to me.
And that feels very inviting to me versus anything that would look like, you don't ever do this, or you always come home and do this. And maybe even with what you're saying, to say, you know, I feel like you're kind of avoiding me tonight. Like, I feel like you're really avoiding me, but adding to that, I feel like you might be kind of wanting some of your own space, or you're avoiding me, or what you did here even really hurt me. But I'd like to know what was going on for you. What am I trying to draw that person out versus kind of thinking the boundary is this wall that goes right up and says, you did this to me, Buster, and you're out. There's no invitation there.
Well, other people put up their boundaries, and that's good. But then we also have a responsibility to them to respond to their boundary, and to try to do it in a good way, which can be really hard. As I said, it's hard for me when someone wants time to think about things, and I'll let them know how hard that is for me. Or they may need space, and just realizing that they need that because of how they're made, not because of what someone's done to them.
We're going to take another break, and when we come back, we will say more about some of the practical how-tos, things we need to consider on what a healthy boundary actually looks like. We want you to stay with us for that. Christian counselor Ann Beal from the Minirth Clinic with us today, and I'm Jim Cress. Again, call the number there on your screen if you'd like to know how to purchase one of the one-page digests on this topic of boundaries or other topics. 1-888-646-4784. We'll be right back. Dr. Les Carter joins me for just a moment during this break. I want to talk about his anger workshop. It lasts for 6 weeks, coming up here at the Minirth Clinic in suburban Dallas, Texas, starting things off August 20th. That's a Thursday night, going from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And, you know, we think of anger sometimes just must be somebody out of control, like the picture of the person cut off in traffic or something, or the person not getting their way. But doesn't anger really have many, many faces?
Well, you know, Jim, anger does come out in many different ways. And sure enough, that person who has the bad temper and goes into the rages, that's a person that has an anger problem. But have you ever thought of the individual that pulls back and withdraws and just will go days perhaps without saying a word to somebody? Have you ever thought of that person as having a problem with anger? Well, sure enough, anger comes out in so many different ways. And one of the ways that you can learn to manage anger is first know what it is that we're talking about when we discuss the emotion of anger. We can be talking about your frustrations, your irritabilities, even your hurts and your disappointments. And so one of the things that we try to do in the anger workshop is to get you to identify some of the ways that anger can show up in your personality, and specifically why it's there. For example, there are many reasons for it being there. Sometimes a person has a lot of hidden insecurity that pushes their anger. Sometimes they're just running with a great deal of pride. Many times they have a real powerful control myth that causes them to go into this anger kind of mode. The deeper you have a sense of understanding regarding this emotion, then the more you can make plans to make it work for you rather than working against you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Carter. Again, the Anger Workshop with Dr. Les Carter coming up Monday, I should say, August 20th. It's a Thursday night. Don't show up Monday. Thursday nights. It's going to be for 6 weeks right here at the Minirth Clinic. You will love this. Bring a friend along. Explore some of the issues with Dr. Les Carter. For more information, 1-888-MINIRTH, 1-888-646-4784. Back with you on Minirth Clinic Television. I'm Jim Cress, and thanks so much for joining us with Christian counselor Ann Beal helping us get a better grasp on healthy boundaries. Let's dive right back into our discussion. Just recapping, you were talking about different types of people, and there's one who I think was non-compliance. Is that the one? Or
non-responsive?
Non-responsive, the one. What is specifically going on for that person?
Well, they don't feel your emotion. They don't see it. And you have to be real clear and say to them, this is how I'm feeling. They're the ones that you think they should read your mind, but they can't. They're the extreme of that. They just don't get it.
You have to be real concrete with them.
You have to be real clear to them. And I used to think my husband could read my mind a lot, even though I didn't think of it like that. But when I just started saying, I want to go out once a week, or I want to do this, and he went, oh, okay. So they don't get it, but they're the extreme of that. No matter how much you are doing these things but not speaking it, they really don't get it. They don't realize you have needs. They don't realize you have desires, and you have to really spell those out. And for the boundaries and recognizing them, some tips on boundaries is mainly recognizing what kind of person you are. Are you a non-responsive person? Are you a compliant person that really does everything out of fear that you're not going to be loved, fear that they're going to walk away? Are you non-compliant, controlling, or do you avoid? So kind of get an idea of what kind of person you are.
The non-compliant and what you were talking about, or the person who just doesn't get it, I could think of a person, maybe you've done this, I know I certainly have done this, where I am wanting my wife to read my mind, or who knows, it's somebody else in a relationship, and I think I will miss out on what could happen, which would be me saying, honey, not coming defensive, like, I want to tell you, I need just coming and saying, hey, babe, I would really like to go do this. My habit has always been to put disclaimers. And I know so-and-so, and I know you probably won't, and I know, instead of just coming right out and saying, honey, this is something I'd really like to go do. Can I have your thoughts on what you feel about that? Sitting back and thinking, why can't she just read my mind? Why can't she just understand this? Or if my wife did that with me, thinking, why doesn't he be more romantic? And just somehow,
right.
And what gets missed often when a person comes right out and says, honey, I'd like to do so-and-so. This is what I'd really like to do. No disclaimers, no ands, ifs, or buts. It's just, this is what I'd like to do. What do you think about that? And the person said, that sounds fine with me. And you're like, I've wasted all this time wanting them to read my mind or disclaiming it or afraid to talk. Sometimes it does work that easily, doesn't it?
It really does work that easily. Part of the problem is when you've been married so long, or you feel like you're so close and you're so much alike, that if they should get it. They should know this. I mean, they've known me so long, they should know this.
And maybe they should. But so what? I mean, where's that going to get you? Maybe they should know that by now.
But see, then the difference is that you know that, but you're not them, and they're made differently, and they don't work the way you do. And so it's acknowledging, instead of being frustrated by it, acknowledging that they are very different. And the best way to get your message across is with words. Very clear.
Talk.
Yes, talking.
And when you say be clear, again, we're back to the issue of don't disclaim, don't try, so many times we're so afraid we've got to put all this stuff around it as opposed to just coming out kindly. Ephesians 4:15 says speaking the truth in love and say, here's what I want to do. Let's bring this in the way of drawing a healthy boundary to a controversial area, and that is with family of origin. Someone calls and says, we're having a family reunion. We really hope you'd be there. Or so-and-so's getting married, or this family event is going on, such and such. Or if you're going to come up for a visit, we'd like you to not just stay this long, or what have you. And you find yourself thinking, maybe as a couple, talking as a family, this is what we feel like we can really do. Right. And if you go to offer that and say, we can only stay 3 days, not 2 weeks. No, we're not going to be able to make it up for this. We regret it. We wish we could be there. We can't. You're scared spitless for some people to think they're going to say, well, why not? So what happens? Tell us what it looks like to say what you feel with a family of origin situation. And then what if they counter and say, yes, but what do you do then?
Well, I really honor anyone who can know themselves well enough to know what they can handle. Those are clear boundaries to be able to say. I know with Robert and I, we usually know that after about 4 days staying with people, we get tired. Our kids get tired. And so we usually average 4 days. And
it sounds like my mom, who's now in heaven, she used to say, every time she'd come see us, she'd say, well, you know what they say, company and fish, they both start to stink after 3 days. And the kind of thing. And she just said, you kind of wear out your welcome. And it really wasn't. Mom, come on, stay longer. It wasn't really a problem. But to know your limits, to say, about 4 days, kind of nice. And then after that, maybe we better look at that.
Yeah, you be kind. I mean, for us, most of it's our reasons. We just get tired. We get uptight. Our kids get, frustrated. And we have things we want to do at home. we have found, though, if we stay longer, it's just tougher. And so we usually tell our reasons because of us. And but if they push it, then we can even go into things about them. But we try not to do that.
What about the person who says, or I don't know if they would have the insight to say, but if they did, we're choosing not to give a reason. Mm-hmm. It's the can't, won't principle. Mm-hmm. A lot of people get themselves in trouble by saying, we just can't do that. And what they're saying is, we won't do that. Not to be mean, but to say, we're going to stay there for 4 days. Well, why can't you stay longer? Is there no Well, that's just what we've decided. Explain. I need to know why. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've gotten to the point with us, if that happens in a situation, I feel the best thing for us to do is to say, that's just the choice we've made. It's like a volleyball. They're just trying to draw us in, and if I give them one reason why, then they're just waiting. And it's just you cannot argue with that. It's just the choice we've made. This is what we're doing. It's best for our family. How can you argue with that? But if I give them one excuse, one reason.
And what you're talking about is a controlling person. I mean, you come upon a controlling person where you set your boundaries, and controlling people invade your boundaries.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, what do they say about salesmen? A no means yes, and a maybe means yes. You know, it all means yes. And they don't hear your no's. Those are controlling people. And so they manipulate, and they try, and they work, or they believe that they can convince you like a salesman. And those people, you just have to stay with. God says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. And God always did that, and we're called to do the same thing.
So you're saying maybe with a person who's not controlling, you might be able to say, you know, we just, for us, it just feels like whatever, maybe to give a reason. You got to use discernment there, I guess, though.
Yeah, and it usually stops them. If you give them a good reason, at that point, then if they're manipulating you, and that's why it's good to identify, are you a controlling person, or are you an avoidant person that would just say, don't want to talk about it? So it really helps you define what kind of person you are. And then you also recognize in others to know what they're doing. And then you can just tell them.
Tell them and let the chips fall where they may, right? We will continue more with Christian counselor Ann Beal, wrapping up this brief series on boundaries. I'm Jim Cress, inviting you to stay tuned. Again, to purchase the one-page digest, call us at 1-888-Minirth. We'll be right back. The Minirth Clinic in Richardson, Texas, here for you as a matter of caring. The Minirth Clinic has a commitment to excellence in many areas, maintaining a professional Christian staff, compassionate, individualized patient care, and comprehensive quality treatment programs and services. Through our medical and counseling practice and outreach programs, the staff maintains a conviction that the most effective way of helping an individual with emotional problems is by treating the person as a whole. The Minirth Clinic is led by Christian psychiatrist and best-selling author Dr. Frank Minirth, a diplomate of the American Board of Psychiatry and Neurology and the American Board of Forensic Medicine.
Dear friend, here at the clinic, we try to have a Christ-like caring approach with the behavioral tools. Sometimes medicines can also really help and make a world of difference for depression, weight loss, panic, anxiety, sexual dysfunctions, ADHD, insomnia, dementia. Are you aware that there are new and many times very helpful medicines in these areas that bother so many people in the Christian world today? Again, new medicines in depression, weight loss, panic, anxiety, sexual dysfunction, ADHD, insomnia, dementia. They're not for everyone, but sometimes they can make a world of difference for the cause of Christ.
Call the Minirth Clinic today with the struggle that you're having or the struggle in the life of a friend or a family member. The Minirth Clinic is committed to providing the optimum level of patient care at an affordable cost. Many major insurance carriers will cover the patient counseling services. Call the Minirth Clinic today. Ask for information on individual counseling, group counseling, medical management, marriage and family counseling, or information on our child and adolescent services. You need to make the call today. The Minirth Clinic, toll free, 1-888-Minirth. 1-888-646-4784. The help you're looking for is a phone call away. The Minirth Clinic, 1-888-646-4784. Back with you on Minirth Clinic Television. Thanks so much for joining us. Jim Cress, along with Christian counselor Ann Beal. And again, if you'd like to purchase one of the one-page digest, call us toll-free at 1-888-Minirth. Ask about specifically the digest on boundaries, although there are many other ones. They'll give you a complete listing. Something guaranteed, 40 or 50 of those done now, different topics, applicable for your life. 1-888-646-4784. We're going to run out of time real quickly here. We'll just recap and then we'll go on further. There is a time if you're not dealing with a controlling person, you may feel the liberty to say, well, this is why we're not able to do that. If someone you feel really cares and has your best interest. But I know certainly what I believe and what we practice in some situations is if a person always is going to, yeah, but why not? Well, why not? Well, why can't? And when what you're saying simply is, it's best for us, without giving you a ton of data, that we stay this long and we're leaving, and that's just what we're going to do. Care about how they're feeling, but not get in, because next thing you know, you wake up and they've been pulling you into this big dialogue that you don't want to be in.
If you think about it, people who are controlling they kind of flock to people with no boundaries. And so people who have boundaries are respected by controlling people. So by building tighter boundaries with them, they begin to respect you. And there's one thing I really learned, which was a hard lesson for me, is would you rather be respected or loved? At some times, people's love comes and goes. I mean, love can be fleeting, especially in relationships, but respect usually stays. And I have to make a choice. Is it more important that they respect me or that they love me? And that's where I get away from the need of needing to be liked, needing to be loved and cared for, and just realize this is a time when I need to show my boundaries and show them that I'm worthy of respect. And they usually always, controlling people, respect you more for drawing those boundaries. And they turn towards people without boundaries to put more of that anger and control on. And yet they leave you and respect you. So just over time, stay with it, and they build up a great respect for you. And I know I've seen that time and time again.
Share with us, before we run out of time, maybe a couple more thoughts on healthy boundaries.
Well, I think one of the most important things, again, is to realize you're not responsible for the other person's behavior. Don't rescue. Don't blame yourself. And then lastly, know which kind of person you are. And when you identify if you're an avoider or a controller or non-responsive or compliant, then from there you work on those, your weak areas where you invade or let other people invade, and make those areas stronger so that you can really love Christ-like.
And the whole idea here in drawing boundaries is to be Christ-like, and what you do may help that other person. In your own personal boundaries, you're not loving them well by letting them continue to violate what you know to be right about you and about your own life. Now, much more than we had time to get to on this 3-day series on boundaries is covered in the one-page digest on this topic. I think there's a lot more than one page on this, too. How to avoid poor boundaries, gaining insight into poor boundaries, how they've manifested themselves, and how to draw these healthy boundaries. Biblical support, very practical help in this one-page digest. If you'd like to purchase that or any of our other digests, I want you to call us toll-free. Call, by the way, also let us know where you're watching this program. Would you do that? 1-888-Minirth. That's toll-free, 1-888-646-4784. Kind of a vote for us that you're believing in what we're doing and that in any way, shape, or form your life is being touched by this program. Toll-free, 1-888-646-4784. Some of you right here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, I hope you'll make a call today to see somebody on our staff, for yourself or a loved one, about some struggle going on in life. Again, toll-free, 1-888-Minirth. For Ann Beal, I'm Jim Cress. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.